Hello, this is Craig McFeeters, author of LuckGrib. This will be a short introduction to LuckGrib running on an iPad. A quick note on this tablet. I bought this iPad in mid-2017. It's not an iPad Pro, it's just a simple iPad. So it's not super high-end, but I think you'll see that it's plenty fast. So let's get started. When you first run LuckGrib on the iPad, you'll see this window. You have a choice between either starting the free trial or buying the application. Most people will want to try the free trial first. So to start the free trial, simply tap on the big blue button and you'll see this window. You'll need to sign into your Apple ID and go through an in-app purchase process. There will be a window which confirms the price, which is free. So after doing that, we'll continue. After having started the free trial, you'll see this window. To continue to the application, simply tap the Close and Continue button. At this point, you can be guided through a tutorial which will help you get started with the application. If you're new to LuckGrib, I recommend that you do this process. There's a short message and then some guidance on what to do. In this case, you want to tap the big swirling icon and continue. So simply read the messages and continue with the tutorial, and it will guide you through a process of learning the application. So I won't show the entire tutorial in this video. That would be a little tedious. So when you download the application and go through the free trial, you'll see the tutorial yourself. I'll reinforce many of the concepts in the tutorial in this video. As part of the tutorial, you're guided through the process of downloading your first weather file. Here we have a file which is a global GFS file. This file contains 7 days of forecast data. To change the forecast time, simply tap in the timeline and scroll back and forth. And as you change the little blue indicator, you'll show the forecast data for that time. In the timeline, the blue indicator shows you the forecast time being shown in the screen, and the little red line on the left-hand side here shows you the time of day. It's currently a Sunday afternoon here. The tutorial also showed that the text displayed for the weather is shown in the upper right-hand corner. As you move the map around, you'll see the text updating. So you can read off the weather parameters in detail anywhere you want. We also showed how to change the display. This file contains data for sea level pressure, wind direction, wind speed, and the speed of the wind gusts. To change the display, simply tap on the second icon down on the left-hand side, and we have a series of presets, preset combinations of draw styles. So to tap on one of them, here's the pressure only display. We'll go back and pick another one. Here's a wind gust image with a contour showing areas of similar wind gust speed. Another one. Here's streamlines showing the flow of wind. If you go to the bottom of this screen, there's an entry for edit draw styles. This may help explain what's going on. So in this file, there are 7 different draw styles available. Turning all of these on results in a display which is pretty confusing. You're seeing everything drawn at the same time. So what's happening is that when you select a preset style, a draw style set, it's selecting only a few, the combinations which make sense in the draw styles. Now, if you want, you can create your own. So perhaps you want something like this one, where you have wind gust with let's do wind gust and pressure, something like this. So wind gust is shown as a color image, the pressure is shown, but you really want to see wind direction as well. So you can turn on wind direction by tapping the wind barb line. And now we have the display we want. And if you like this combination, you can name it. And create this combination. Close this window. And if we go back to the set of the presets, we now have the new combination, gust and direction. This will be more important when you start downloading files which contain many more parameters. Although I have provided a set of combinations which I like, you may have your own preferences for how you want to see these combinations, and you're able to do that quite easily. The tutorial also introduced you to the idea of meteograms. Meteograms are available by tapping the text box on the top right-hand corner. A meteogram is let's just resize this. Meteograms are a way of showing the forecast data through time. So the cursor in the middle of the screen is the point of interest at this point. And what you're seeing is all the forecast data at that point from the beginning of this weather file to the end. So on the left-hand side, we'll see that the gusts here seem to be around the maximum, and they fall further in the process, and pressure is also falling and rising again. Meteograms are a very fast way of seeing the entire forecast data at a point, and very useful. And you can dismiss a meteogram either by tapping in its top left-hand corner or tapping on the text box again. To continue the review of the introduction a little further, we also saw the concept of the radial menu. If you tap in the middle on the cursor, there are 6 icons which appear. These icons are used to control different aspects of the program. If you use the bottom one, you can play the animation, tap and stop it again. You can go left to the previous forecast record, or go with the next one by tapping the next icon. One thing I didn't mention, or was hard to describe in the tutorial, was there are different ways of using this radial menu. You can tap and wait for the menu to appear and then click on one of the icons. Alternatively, you can tap and hold, and then as you move down, you'll see a line appear which indicates which of these icons you will select. And you're also able to do that last step very quickly. So if you tap, move, you can end up doing it so quickly that the menu will never appear. This is more of like a flick gesture. So this radial menu is a fast way of stepping through the forecast. And lastly, if you want to replay the tutorial at any time, you can simply open up the sidebar. And, I should explain that. There are 2 ways of opening the sidebar. The first is to tap the top left icon, which looks like a little menu. And the second way is to swipe from the left-hand side of the screen into the application. So if you do that, you can go to the library and open the tutorials area. And the first entry, the Getting Started tutorial, is what you saw when you first played the application. There are several more tutorials available, and you may want to look at those. I'll show a brief glimpse of the wind tutorial. So in this main screen, you'll see all these symbols. They're called wind barbs, and they show both the wind speed and direction at a point. And if you're not familiar with how these work, you can go through the tutorial on wind, and it'll describe that. The second topic, wind barbs, will go through the symbology of how these work. And I'll go through this really quickly, and I'll advance to the this point. This is a short interactive display which allows you to change the wind speed and see what symbol is being used at that speed. So here we have the wind speed is 4 to 4 knots, and what you're seeing is there's 3 long feathers, and each long feather is 10 knots, the short feather is 5 knots. So this symbol represents 45 knots, and it's valid for the range 42.5 to 47.5. So there is a lot more information available in these tutorials, and yeah, I do encourage you to go through them. Okay, let's download some more weather. So we'll zoom out, and in this file, what I want is to download an area which includes Hawaii up to around Seattle. So here we have Hawaii in the bottom left-hand corner, and Seattle's in the top right, pretty much. So yeah, I'll download a new weather file. So open up the library, go to the weather files area, ask for a new file. I want to download a new file. I'll use GFS again, and if you tap on the parameters, you have the ability to add or remove parameters from the request. And for this one, I'll go with the same ones: pressure, wind speed, and direction, and wind speed, the speed of wind gusts. I'll do every 3 hours for 7 days. I'll use the full resolution, which has been chosen. If you tap on the resolution row, these are the available resolutions, and I want the highest one. So yeah, that's all fine. I'll download this file, tap on the top right-hand corner. The name, I'll accept the default name for now. Here comes the file. And yeah, here's the new high-resolution version of the previous one. And if you look at the wind speed and wind and pressure at the surface. So let's continue on. We'll say we want to go to San Francisco and do some sailing. Here we are in San Francisco. And if we just look at this file, we'll do a quick mediogram around the Golden Gate Bridge area, just outside the Golden Gate Bridge. So here's a 7-day forecast for just outside the Golden Gate Bridge. We see the winds, yeah, they tend to increase and decrease through the day. They seem to increase every evening and afternoon, and decrease in the later evening and overnight, which is much as what you would expect. So what we want, this file is a 1/4 degree file, but you really want a high resolution version of this file. There are a lot of hills in this area, so the topography will be affecting how the wind works. So what I'll do is I'll download another new file for this smaller area. So again, we'll download a file, ask for a new file. So far, I've been using GFS. So this time what I want is rather than a global file, I'll choose the regional file. And for North America, and you have a number of choices, and I'll go through these in more detail a little later. For now, let's pick the first one, the 3-kilometer NAM, the continental USA NAM. And these parameters are all fine. The resolution that's showing is 3 kilometers, and that is the highest resolution available in this model. So yeah, let's just download that. Tap download. I'll accept the default file name. And here's the file. Now if you compare this file, and just zoom in a little more. So yeah, there are differences between this file and the previous one. So if you go back to the previous file, the GFS, it's showing very light winds outside of Golden Gate Bridge at this time, whereas the NAM is showing much different winds. They aren't super strong, but they are different. One hint on changing files, in the radial menu, there is an option to swap between 2 files. In the top left-hand corner, the swap icon, and you can do that quickly with the flick motion. So here's the NAM, 3-kilometer NAM, here's the GFS, and yeah, this shows that having higher resolution will help you account for topology. And I suspect the differences between this file and the GFS file are simply down to resolution. The GFS file is not able to represent, it's not able to model the topography in this area. Now, if you're in the open ocean, having a file which is a quarter of a degree or even coarser, half a degree or 1 degree, may be enough because there's not land around for thousands of miles. But when you do get close to land and hills, having a higher resolution model available is very useful, and I encourage you to download high resolution models. So let's continue the resolution discussion a little bit further. So we've been seeing these two files, this high resolution 3 kilometer NAM file and the previous GFS quarter of a degree. Now, there are a number of arrows, wind barbs being shown here and here, but there's only a few of these which are actually modeled in the weather file. So if you look closely, there are little squares at the root of some of these wind barbs. This one has a little square. There's one over here which has a little square. And each of these points is from the model directly. These are real points that are in the forecast. And all of the wind barbs between these model points are interpolations. There'll be a smooth interpolation of the surrounding model points. Now, comparing, if you zoom out, the interpolations will go away to the point where all you have left, well, there we go. So all of these points are now model points. These are from the model. Now going back to the GFS, if you look around, there's a model point way up here, another one across here, going south from this point, there's a model point, and then going west, wow, it's way over here. So you'll see that there are differences between this file's forecast and the NAM version. And when you consider that the model points being used to show the weather in this Golden Gate area are so far apart, that helps explain what's going on. If we go back to the previous file, the first GFS file, this was a 1 degree by 1 degree file. Each degree is 60 nautical miles, so these points are now 60 nautical miles apart. The previous quarter of a degree file had points which are 15 nautical miles apart. And you can verify that quickly. Here we go over here. There's a tool in LuckGrib to measure distances. So flick up to the tool area, pick the line. We'll go down to one of these points, start the line, and move up to the previous one, the one north. Oh, actually, this is a 1.5 degree file. It's 90 nautical miles between points. Say we'll go back to the previous GFS file. Yeah, here's a GFS. This is a quarter of a degree. Let's check that again. Make a line. There's one point. Go north to the next one. And yeah, that's 15 nautical miles. So yeah, that's what's going on. So yeah, there are some tools to help you check resolution, and the more the better. If you're close to land where you have fast internet, then yeah, there's no reason not to download lots of data. Data is free in LuckGrib. Download all you want. So I just showed the line tool, and I'll continue with that just briefly. You can make a line, you can measure distances using the line tool. But you're also able to do a very crude representation of a vessel moving through the weather. So let's do that. We'll open up the sidebar, go to the settings area, and go down to the distance tool settings. And we'll turn on the show travel along line option. You're able to set a speed for the vessel, and this default is 5 knots. So we'll go with that. And we'll show dots along this line every 24 hours, and we'll explain that. So this is a GFS file. Say I want to leave the Golden Gate Bridge. I'll start a line here, and I'll just kind of head southwest a little bit for a while. So there we go. We'll end this line. I'll zoom out a little bit. So the time when I started this was in the middle of Monday, and now as I advance the time, you'll see a little vessel, and the location of this vessel assumes a 5 knot speed from when you start the journey to when you end. And the information shown now also includes information at that vessel. So if you look at the right hand side, the second group down shows wind at vessel, and it's showing actually the wind at that vessel at that time, also the relative wind and the apparent wind. And the apparent wind is assuming a 5 knots of speed. If you tap on that measure text box, you'll see a new meteogram, and this is a meteogram for movement along the line you just created. And this meteogram shows pressure as well as wind. And there's a new row which has appeared, which shows the wind, the relative and apparent wind for the vessel as you move along. That's pretty handy. So this can help with departure planning. You can change a few things fairly easily. If you wanted to change the departure time to the start of this forecast, you can move the time to the very beginning. And there's an icon, the second from the right, a little clock, and that'll reset the time to the start of the journey. And of course you can move it around. You can slide over and grab one of the points, use the move icon to change its location. So yeah, that might be handy for some of you. Okay, let's continue. So far I've shown all the models kind of around the Pacific and some in America. What I'll do is I'll go over to Europe. I'll show some weather models. Say that we want to leave the Mediterranean and go through Gibraltar into the Atlantic in this area. So let's download some weather for here. Again, we'll go back to the weather files area, download a new file. In this case, I'll choose a model which is regional for Europe. There are some regional higher resolution models available, although unfortunately there are fewer available in Europe than there are in North America. That's just the way it is. The US NOAA has an enormous number of models that they provide, and it's been more difficult to find public domain models available for Europe. So I'll choose the ICON model. ICON's made by the German Meteorological Organization, the DWD. They've been very generous in offering, I think it's all of their models, all their weather models, for free. It's awesome. So the ICON model is available at 0.06 degrees resolution, which is around 4 times greater than the GFS. And if you're in this area, it's worthwhile to give this one a try. I'll download pressure, wind. I want gusts as well. Add gusts. And I'll accept all the rest of the defaults. Download this. Here it is. So yeah, here's a weather model showing what's happening around Gibraltar. Let's have a look. Okay, so if you're leaving the Mediterranean, going into the Atlantic, here we have some headwinds. Some, how strong is that? 17 knots from the from the west. And it looks like it's light at the beginning of this forecast. So I guess for the purposes of this demonstration, why don't we change our mind? We're going to be coming from the Atlantic into the Mediterranean. It's convenient to be able to do that. So here we are. This kind of gives you an idea of what a good time to come through may be. This kind of all looks pretty good. All the winds, there's no reds. The gusts are pretty small. If you were coming from the Atlantic into the Mediterranean, it would be behind you. Nice to be able to change our direction quickly. It's also useful to check the wave state. So let's do that. We'll download one more model which contains wave information. So again, we'll download a new file, change the model. We'll download a regional European wave model. There's 2 I have available. One from the German Weather Service, DWD, and one from the Meteo France. I'll download the German one again. And the parameters, I'll go with the default parameters, which will be wind as well as combined wind and swell. And I want all the resolution available, so I'll tap on the resolution line. Yep, 3 nautical miles. And I'll download this. Accept that default name. Here we go. And I want to change the display to show the combined wave. So here we have a display showing the arrows. The arrows indicate the direction of the waves. And yeah, so through the straits, we have the swell, the combined wind waves and swell are 2.2 feet. That's nothing. What's happening a bit later? Yeah, it looks like it's pretty small. So this is being shown in feet. You have a control over the units. Open up the sidebar, go to settings, and here we have the units. So the height is currently feet. You can make that meters. Dismiss that. And yeah, now it's a 1 meter. Okay, moving on. This is starting to become a long video. So I'll download one more file, just because I think it's kind of cool. Let's go over to the Gulf Stream, have a look what's happening there. So we'll go to the east coast of North America here, and we'll download a new, a bit more, there we go. We'll download a new file. I'll use the global current model. So I'll download a new file, and I'll choose, in the global area, open up the ocean, and RTOFS is the current model available globally. And I want water temperature as well. Go back, download this file. I'll accept the default file name. And here we have, this is the Gulf Stream. So yeah, down here, the Gulf Stream is heading north at 3.4 knots. There's forecast data every 24 hours in this model. And yeah, it seems to change fairly slowly. Let's have a look at temperature. There's water temperature. Okay, so, excuse me. I've shown a number of weather models, but there are many more available in LuckGrib. So, you may be curious, how do you find out which model you want to use for your area? Which models are available? So there's a tool in LuckGrib. In the sidebar, go back to the library, and the second down is Explore Models. This allows you to open up and see all of the models which are available in the application. Oops. And as you go through and open up all these little areas, you'll see that there are a lot of choices. Now, what you can do is, well, there's information available for all of these. So if you click on one of the models, or tap on one of the models, you see the resolution, how often the model is updated, and the parameters which are available. And this information is available for all of these. So you can go through the global models and see what they offer. For the regional models, you also have the ability of seeing what region is covered. If you tap on one of the models and then dismiss the sidebar, you can see the domain which is covered by this weather model. So the 3-kilometer NAM covers this area, all of the USA, the southern parts of Canada, into Mexico, and into part of the Caribbean there. If we go back to another one, here's a high-resolution rapid refresh model for Alaska. This is a 3-kilometer model updated every 3 hours. Let's go over to Europe, and what you're able to do with this window is zoom into an area and then have it only show you the models which would apply to this region. So now we go back to Explore Models. There were 79 models in the first presentation, or available in the application globally, but in this region there are only 32, and I say only in quotes. In Europe, so if you sail in Europe, there's a organization, OpenWRF, which is run by a fellow named David Gall. And David has been kind enough to give me permission to download all of his models and make them available to all of you, all the LuckGrib customers. And he has a lot of models available. These are updated mainly once a day, with a variety of resolutions between 12 kilometers and 4 kilometers. So yeah, if you sail in this area, you should check out the models that he's offering. they're they're cool. If you use these a lot, you may want to consider making a contribution to his cause. He has a donate button available, and I encourage you to donate to his project on the OpenWRF site. Okay, I'll just cover one or two more short topics, and then we'll call that good for this video. So let's go back and let's see. We've downloaded a number of weather files, and each of these can be refreshed or updated simply by tapping the refresh button to the left. For example, if I update this NAM, Continental USA NAM file, tap that button, and this gives me a new version, an updated version of this file. You can do that whenever you want. So what's happening is that there are the parameters involved in the model download are being saved, and this allows you to set up a model forecast for an area which you are interested in, and quickly update that forecast whenever you want. Let's try that again. Go back to this NAM CONUS. So now we see there's two files which are highlighted. The top one is a bit darker. That's the one which is being shown, and the other one is related. These two both share the same request, so that indicates that these two files are the same region, model, and parameters. So if you want to see a forecast evolve over time, you can go back and see an older version of the forecast and then see how it changed in the future, and that can be useful. Let's also try and update this file again. We just updated it a moment ago, so we'll update it again. And what we're seeing now is that it comes back with a message saying the request does not yet have new data available. So the application has spoken to my server and asked for an update of this model, and the server came back saying the model data that you have is already the most recent update. And that's done by the application sending the server information about what its most recent update was. So that's useful because some of the models update at different frequencies. The high resolution rapid refresh model updates every hour. This NAM model updates every 6 hours. The global current model I showed updates every 24 hours. Some of them are every 12 hours. So yeah, whenever you want fresh data, just go ahead and update the file, and the system will let you know whether or not there is new data available. So it'll never send data you already have. And that's useful. You can also change names. What I find is that over time, you'll gather a lot of these requests for different areas. And at the moment, I have a number of them with the same name. So there's a GFS file here, and there's another GFS file on top of it. And I believe one of these is global, and one of them is not. So you can change the names of these to help give you a clue of what's going on. So on the right hand side of these rows is a little information icon. So I'll change the name of this one on top. This is the Northeast Pacific file. So what I'll do is I'll go down, find its name, Northeast Pacific, GFS, accept that, and yeah, now we have the name is updated in the list. So I think we'll call it quits here. This has been a pretty quick demonstration of LuckGrib. There's actually more capability than what I've shown. There'll be some more videos which will follow. Yeah, LuckGrib comes with a 14-day free trial. If you're curious or interested in what you've seen, download the application, give it a whirl, and let me know what you think. Thanks.